Thank you. I'd like to recognize Mr. Lutmeyer for 5 minutes for questioning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Warren, in your testimony, your written testimony, you indicate that many of the rules make it very non-competitive for community banks, credit unions, and others to compete. Your words are, put them at a competitive disadvantage. We can choose a better way. Can you tell me what that better way is?
I think that the example of the first priority of the new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is an example of the better way. We are going to take two fairly long, fairly complicated forms that have substantial overlap, that two government agencies have negotiated or been at war, depending on your metaphor here, for more than 15 years about combining those forms. And because it comes to one agency, we're going to combine the forms. And we're using the help of the community banks and the credit unions and the mortgage brokers, the people on the front line who originate these mortgages, to find the most effective, the most efficient way to do that and give us a smaller one-page mortgage shopping sheet that might actually produce some value for the American family.
Whenever you do this, are you going to look at the cost-benefit of that rule, that new form that you're going to put out, of what it's going to cost the institutions to comply with?
Congressman, we will certainly look at the cost-benefit
of
it.
If you're going to look at it, can you explain to me on what basis you would throw a rule out or not make a rule? Can you give me the numbers? Is it, because I can give you numbers all day long. I had a community banker drop in front of me about 2 weeks ago a sheaf of papers that said, Blaine, this is what it cost me to comply with one rule, $16,500 per year in a small institution. Another one told me it cost over $100,000 a year to comply on one rule.
Yes.
Now, you multiply that by all the banks in the country. At what point are you going to say this rule, the cost benefit of it, is not worth implementing?
Congressman, I'm glad you raised the problem of regulatory burdens for our community banks. And I remind you, of course, that the community banks are struggling because of the regulations they face elsewhere in the system, not because of regulations from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Indeed, we have worked with the community banks. We have worked with the credit unions.
Ma'am, you spent 30 seconds of my time not answering my question. I am sorry to interrupt here, but I want a specific answer to a specific question. At what point are you going to say this rule is too costly to implement? It doesn't yield any benefit. It costs too much to implement.
Congressman, we are required by law to do a cost-benefit analysis.
I know you are. I read it in your testimony. I understand it. At what point are you going to say, no, this rule is going to be thrown out?
When the costs outweigh the benefits, Congressman.
Okay, when it costs $100,000, when it costs $1 million, when it costs $1 billion for industry, at what point are you going to say, no, we can't do this?
Congressman, that's what a cost-benefit analysis is. When the costs outweigh the benefits, then we will not engage.
But you don't know at what point that is yet.
You know, Congressman, I think your question about the point is an important one. We are communicating right now with the community banks, with the credit unions, about the changes they want to see, because they think there are cost savings for them that also benefit consumers by starting earlier in the process.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And my concern is that we're going to say, well, we're going to put a new form in place here, but instead of combining two forms, now you have the front and the back that you have to work on, and we haven't done a thing to improve our situation, and still remains more costly. Let me move on to another question before I get my time expires on me here. You're going to be the new examiners on the block. What are you taking over all of the consumer financial protection examinations from all the other agencies across the board, or this is going to be another form that the institutions are going to have to deal with? Okay, in other words, for FDIC, are you taking away all their consumer compliance stuff?
No.
So this is going to be a second exam they're going to have to come in for?
For all financial institutions with more than $10 billion in assets, the new consumer agency will be the primary regulator and supervisor.
Okay, but the other ones are still going to be in place, and they're still going to come in and do compliance exams as well?
There will be something called a transfer date. The transfer date is July 21st of this year, and that's when the other 7 agencies stand down in terms of their responsibilities for enforcement and rule writing
in
under
terms
the
of
18 existing federal statutes and the new consumer agency
Okay,
stands
in
up.
terms of-
It's like a relay race where there'll
Okay,
be
in
a
terms of
handoff.
enforcement, are you going to be doing the same thing that the other agencies have been doing, or are you doing something different?
No, we'll be doing something different. We will be enforcing, they will no longer be enforcing the laws that we will be enforcing. It's a
So you're going to come
handoff.
in,
It's
so you're going to
called-
come in and enforce them? Are you going to be coming in to help the institutions understand them, or are you going to be slapping them more fines?
well,
Gentleman's
I
time has expired.
thank you, Congresswoman.
Thank you. Mr. Dold for